Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for coming. Today, we're looking at session number 4, Knowledge of CX Design, Execution, and Innovation. So, I have to make it so I can read it. Hang on a minute. As customer experience professionals, experience design and improvement is a core competency. It's a piece of the exam blueprint. And what they're looking for is us following a well-defined design process each time an experience is created or changed, as use iterative ideation and prototyping, e.g. design thinking, to engage customers and employees in the co-creation of enhanced or innovative experiences. So the things that we're going to focus in on are general experience design, how it meets brand alignment, design thinking, design tools, customer insight, personas and segments, customer journeys, service design and blueprinting, testing and prototyping. So there's a lot of sections in this particular piece. Okay, first thing we're going to cover is general experience design. So in the past, products and services were kind of designed by trial and error. And I'm sure you all have seen this particular slide, which I think is quite amusing, about design, where they think you're going to go, and user experience, where you actually go. So this is a great visual. But today, this experience design is far more scientific. It incorporates design thinking, customer co-creation approaches, process improvement methodologies, and discipline. I don't know how many of you all have Six Sigma people on your team, but that is pretty common. Customer journey mapping and touchpoint analysis, the ability to identify key moments of truth affecting customer perceptions, and perceptions is a really good word. There's a great TED Talk professor who actually studied her own stroke, and what she came out of it is really that we are feeling creatures who can think. And our perceptions are often far more strong than our cognitive approach. Ability to conduct experience gap analysis and prioritize recommended improvements. Your ability to drive customer-centered design and innovation. Accurately mapping and depicting touch points. And then finally, ability to drive action and execution of key CX improvements. Questions? I've got my chat off for the moment, so just ask if you have one. Okay, experience design tasks include establishing and following well-defined processes each time an experience is created or changed. Use of customer insights to define and prioritize experience requirements and opportunities for improvement. Use of journey mapping to improve the most relevant moments of truth. You all know what a moment of truth is?
Yeah.
Okay. Assessing, documenting, tracking, and reporting resolution of experience gaps across the touch points. Identifying interdependencies across people, process, and technology that impact the design of the experience. And then iterative ideation and prototyping to engage customers and employees in the co-creation of enhanced or innovative experiences. And when we get to the end of this, actually, I have a little bit of a different approach. Now, one of the first things that a business needs to look at when they're thinking of their experience design is how you align the needs and expectations with your company's brand promise. So this is a little exercise that often is useful in getting everybody on board in a company and helping them de-silo themselves. So we call this a statement of intent exercise. So the first piece here is a description of what the company's brand promise is. Then the key characteristics or benefits that differentiate the company, the traits that define the face and tone of the company brand. Are we going to be a little bit goofy like Ben and Jerry's? Are we going to be really serious about social justice? What are those traits that run through the whole company so that you're easily and uniquely identified? The company's brand as it's defined in the minds of its customers, And then finally, what's the customer experience statement of intent? Right at each touch point. So if your individuals that are interacting with their customers, and this holds true for UX and website as well, are aligned with the brand promise, then you're going to have a consistent experience. Oftentimes people use the example of Disney, of back in the day, one of the things that everyone had in training was, if you're given a task or you don't really know what you want to do to solve a problem, or a customer faces you with an issue, the thing you have to think about is, what would Walt have done? And that was brilliant. That really distilled the brand and how they were expected to act each and every time they interacted with the customer. Questions? Aha, I see my chat going off. Excellent. Okay, so a little bit of design thinking here. So design thinking is a methodology used by designers to solve complex problems and find desirable solutions for clients. It's a structured way of brainstorming solutions with your team. It draws upon logic, imagination, intuition, systemic reasoning to explore possibilities that could be and to create desired outcomes. It's a very human-centered approach to using intuition, and it tends to be very emotionally meaningful and connected. Now, if you notice, one of the clues here that I'm going to give you, I bolded some of these things that I believe could be test questions and could also be test questions in what's coming up. So a design culture encourages failure, because failure is considered learning and is part of the cost of innovation. It can involve multiple steps: research, ideation, prototyping, choice, implementation, and learning. And design thinking tends to lead to better solutions and greater creativity. Just as a side here, again, the CXPA blueprint is very tied into the IDEO group. I don't know if you all know about them, but if you Google them, they're a design thinking group that has created some incredibly innovative products. A lot of Apple work was done there in the beginning. And they are responsible for just a ton of product and service innovation. So turning customer focus into innovation. So it comes from doing outcome-based customer interviews, capturing desired outcomes, organizing those outcomes, rating them to see which is important, because this, one of the things that we always learn is you can't do everything, and then using those outcomes to jumpstart the innovation process. A lot of people ask and debate about the difference between CX and UX and how it fits in with design thinking. So I think I've done 2 or 3 workshops on this, and did something at NextGen. It was a great heated battle between the UX people and the CX people of who thought they were more important. And the reality is that they're both really important. UX tends to involve a product being used. The experience surrounds this. It's basically limited to that product, right? It may be in person, it may be a mobile app, it may be a website, or a physical object, right? Yeah, you do know how those conversations go. But CX is a little different. It looks at the entire experience and requires a great deal of business skills as well. So it's kind of the umbrella over UX and architectural design and a bunch of different things. A customer could be any person getting in contact with the brand, whether or not they may at some point use one or several products provided by the brand. The customer's touch points with the brand are various, and a customer may become a user of several different products or services at some point across their journey. UX is a part of CX, as each product needs to be user-friendly. So that is, I'll call it the purist view. We have found that in doing projects, a lot of times having a customer experience design, and especially some type of journey map, has been very, very useful in helping UX design look at their prototyping and testing, because what often happens is they may have a beautiful design, it may be targeted, it could have all the right things, but its timing and cadence are off. And that happens more than you would expect. So they don't necessarily see the customer and what their level of effort and what their needs are in their day-to-day life. They're only looking at that smaller piece. So as you go through is if you can help your UX people identify where their assets and the work is most likely to be successful, that makes them more successful too. And they tend to be much more collaborative with you. Bet Mariska could do an entire class on that. Design tools. So design tools and techniques often are, they're incredibly varied, right? There's a way of doing things through virtually an unlimited combination of the design tools we're going to talk about in the middle. So the experience design is conceptualizing, developing, and orchestrating all the interactions between a customer and a brand. And by the way, some of those interactions may be known or unknown to the brand, and they may be planned or unplanned. So when you're doing some type of an experience design, you also have to think of word of mouth, peer-to-peer, and someone interacting with a brand where they're not actually interacting with the brand. Say they drive by, all of those different elements. Its sequence is research, analysis, ideation, prototyping, and documentation. So some of the design tools that are described and asked about in the exam are quick and dirty prototyping, role-playing, brainstorming, body storming. How many of you all have heard of body storming? I thought it was a surfing technique.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I never heard of that, actually.
Yep. Character profiles, fly on the wall observation, extreme user interviews. So we're going to have, you know, EX games, and drawing the experience. So I'm going to go through these really quickly. So quick and dirty prototyping is a great way to communicate a concept to the team and evaluate how to refine a design, right? So you keep doing some iterations of the prototype till you get to something that kind of sticks. Role-playing is used to identify stakeholders involved in the design problem by assigning those roles to members of the team. Brainstorming. After synthesizing data from interviews, surveys, and other methods, the collage of data is examined thoroughly through this technique. Shadowing. Great way to reveal design opportunities and show how a product might affect or complement users' behavior. Body storming sets up a scenario and acts out roles. So it's sort of like role playing, with or without props, focusing on the intuitive responses prompted by the physical enactment, and enables you to generate and test out context and behavior concepts. So I just put a little note in this. 30% of the 100 questions in the sample tests that CX University was good enough to share with me focused on these definitions. Right? So make sure that you get a good grip of those, right? Character profiling is based on the observations of real people. You develop character profiles to represent archetypes and the details of their behaviors and life cycle. So it's useful to bring a typical customer to life and to communicate the value of different concepts to various target groups. I would equate that to segments and profiles, which they call something different, and we'll get to in a minute. Drawing the experience is a good way to debunk assumptions and reveal how people conceive of and order their experiences or activities. It tends to bring a typical customer to life and communicate the value of the different concepts to various target groups. Fly on the wall observation. Observes and records, I see a typo, user behavior without interfering with their activities. Extreme user interviews is a great design tool to highlight key issues of design problem and provide insights for design improvements. And narration is used to perform a process or execute a specific task and ask participants to describe aloud what they are thinking. So that's a ton of different techniques. How many, Are you using any of those techniques today, or are they mostly are you using mostly just more simplistic ones?
We used it in the product design group I used to be in.
Mm-hmm.
We actually used a lean startup methodology to do some of that, crazy prototyping stuff.
Yep.
But in my CX role, honestly, I really haven't.
Yeah, it is kind of interesting that they go this deep into the, again, the more product and UX side as compared to the CX side. So yeah, I mean it's again, I think that it's interesting.
Hmm.
Mark, are you on? Are you on tomorrow?
I think he's probably on tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll ask him what he thinks as well. So there's segments and personas. Got a note here. Hang on a minute.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
journey mapping.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's more simply, yes, exactly. Um, so the difference between segmentation and personas. So segments are statistically derived methods to create a set of unique definitions that are identified by generally value, meaning revenue or profit, needs, and behaviors, which often are buying behavior or channel behavior. So it's able to shape both CX as well as sales and marketing strategy to appeal in different ways. So if you do a K-cluster or a conjoint segmentation of your database, and you have enhanced information that you've appended, so demographic and psychographic information, transactional information, financial information, and emotional information, you should be able to tag your database and make your CX work actionable, right? But oftentimes that's pretty complex. And you're not necessarily going to train your salespeople to go look at a segment. That's where personas come in. So they're using fictional characters to represent the typical user and their motivations. It describes their attitudes, goals, behavior, preferences, pet peeves, things like that. And so what we often do is that detailed segmentation so that we can then tie it into journey orchestration, automation, sales, pipeline management, and things like that. But we create a persona which has a specific look and feel so that it's easily recognized. And even further, we do something called golden questions. So generally, there's 2 to 3 statistical attributes that make a segment different from each other. And if you can take that and create a question from it, then that enables you to quickly apply that somewhere like a call center or on the sales floor, or even in a quick survey to differentiate someone and quickly understand how to interact with them right from the beginning. So personas are realistic visualizations of expected perceptions. They're used to highlight human needs and behaviors, and they can be used to talk about value proposition offer, channel strategy, copy, great with using for imagery. What they're not intended to do is to replace or change the segments. They're not representative of every possible customer user type, and they're generally able to be tagged to a database for journey orchestration. So again, if you really want to get down and start taking your CX work and helping guide your marketing and customer success teams, you're better off starting with a segment and then doing something like this when you're mapping a persona. So persona, and I'm not going to go into these, you have them already, but personas can be mapped to understand moments of truth, pain points, and etc. So this particular map is the I love it, I hate it map, right? Kathy's trying to get something done. Okay, it's working well, not so much. Okay, it's working well, oh, not so much. And this is the ups and downs of her interaction when she's trying to achieve something. You could score her effort, you could score her net promoter score, and then you can collect information that's going to be useful going forward of how you might interact with Kathy differently than maybe some other segment or persona. Right? Personas can help you develop a service blueprint. What's my value proposition? What's my messaging? What's my offer? how am I going to do retention and support, and what channels are most important to me. And they can support execution. Now, this is a big piece that I've thrown in here that CXPA doesn't address at all, right? So these two pieces here are what I would call CX execution, right? They inform the interactions that you have with your customer. They are all tied to acquisition, retention, and growth, so that when someone says, should we keep you? You can say, hey, I inform acquisition, retention, and growth, and this is what we've done to make that happen. And that's something I hear a lot about when CXPA members start asking questions. Somehow they've lost the tie in there to the fact that at the bottom line, you have to show that what you're doing for the experience actually is tactically actionable.
Mhm.
Questions? Customer journeys, and I'm racing through this so that we have time to do the questions. Customer journey maps provide a consolidated view of your customer, your business operations, people, process information, and technology. So done right, they're the one source of truth that shows you, my elevator pitch is how badly you're abusing your customers and how to fix it. So there's different levels, right? So there's the customer experience mapping of what the customer's experience and journey is. There's qualitative and quantitative points to that. There's measurement, right? So if I have level of effort, net promoter score, most people don't have net promoter score by touch point, but they could have some by major life cycle transition, like onboarding to use to retention, things like that. So any type of quantitative work is really helpful to tie into a map to start understanding, again, where you need to dive into to start studying that experience. And then if you think of having the outside in, which is the customer's experience, and the inside out, which is the service blueprint, that could be process diagrams of what's going on in the background, even simple lines of the actions that are happening, people, process, information, technology, and systems that are being applied at each life cycle element are very, very helpful to drill into and understand what's going on in the ecosystem, right? Lots of different uses for journey maps, right? Pretty much CXPA only looks at current state, future state. Forrester does a lot of current state, future state, which is his first image. The next one, if you when you are insomniac and want to look at this a little closer, the next one is boomers versus millennials buying a product, and the fact that everyone thinks that if their current client base is Samantha Senior and they're going after Molly Millennial, all they have to do is change a little verbiage and voila. When you actually look at the operations, very, very different. And then strategy, competitor analysis is a very great way to understand where the white space is. So if you're going to do blue ocean strategy, having that is helpful. Marketing and communications, so how well you're interacting and how many touches does it take for you to get your mission accomplished. And then finally, employee experience. Interestingly enough, employee experience is becoming really popular. I don't know how many people are doing that now, but I've seen, I think 50% of what we've been seeing in CXPA and elsewhere has started looking at EX as well as CX, which is great. Questions? Couple chats, hang on. Yes, it is shocking. Well, it's really interesting. And again, I'm happy to do the more tactical piece, but for purposes of the exam, yeah, it's good. And that's good that most companies don't let someone own CX and UX. Oftentimes UX lives in operations and CX lives either in marketing or somewhere else. Having them more closely aligned always is helpful. in fact, it's interesting, you know, CX is often in marketing when you get asked where CX should be, that tends to be where it's put, where actually it should be put either in a COO or directly to the CEO so that you can get the data you need. So let's talk a little bit about service design and blueprinting. Again, this is a little bit different. Good, we've got people helping each other. Thank you. Service design and blueprints. One of the first things when you start getting into doing something different is understanding what metrics you need. It is critical that you design what metrics you need and then understand what data you need to be able to prove those metrics before you start a project instead of after. I don't know how many people have gone down the path, especially in things like marketing automation and communications, and they've built entire systems and then someone asks them, are you succeeding or not? And they don't have the metrics for it. So do yourself a favor whenever you're implementing any system, even if it's Qualtrics or Medallia or any of the voice of the customer solutions, make sure you understand how you need to measure that and you start collecting that from the beginning. This example is a really good example of a metrics for a customer experience, right? It's a HEART framework, it comes from Google. Happiness, engagement, adoption, retention, and task success, meaning did I meet my mission and how hard was it? So I thought that was a really good piece. Whenever we do any work, we always tie it to acquisition, retention, and growth because somebody in the company is invariably measuring that so we can get on their tail and you know, get the wind under it because that's pretty easy to prove. Classic service design has a clear approach. You look at insight research, workshops, service blueprinting, that ties you to the service proposition development, concept sketches, presentations so that you can review it and get input, experience prototyping, testing, and delivery. Notice that this is bolded. So what is a prototype? It's an early sample, model, or release of a product built to test a concept or process or to act as a thing to be replicated or learned from. So it can be used in semantics, design, electronics, software programming. So prototyping is just a really critical element in the overall design, and that does work for CX. I might call this a pilot, right? So never do an entire project until you've done a pilot, and always have a pilot on hand that you know is going to be successful should anybody come around and say, so what have you done for me lately? So that's something also that I notice that a lot of CXPA members don't have what marketing and sales often do. They call it sandbagging, right? You don't have any sandbags laying around that you can pull out and say, look what we've done. So I highly suggest you do that. So sequences for the 4 level of experience prototyping are discussion, simulation, piloting, and participation, meaning getting more and more people to test it. The sequence for retyping and design of a new product or service are research, analysis, ideation, prototypes, and documentation. So you've been through enough classes now as you're going to see the questions here are very similar to what I'm going through here. And as a whole, the 100 of them were much different than the other questions in some of the other sections. So there's a number of different user testing and research methodologies. Everything from behavioral down to attitudinal, qualitative to quantitative. And again, there's just tons of these. I'm not sure how many are directly, I mean, these are really totally much more UX than they are CX. But interviews and focus groups tend to be part of customer insight, but as you get down to clickstream analysis, A/B testing, that gets much more transactional. And then finally, this is more of the approach that I expected to see when I started going through the process in the exam blueprint. I don't know how many of you will recognize something like this, but generally, you know, most of the industry is starting with voice of the customer, voice of the employee, which is voice of the customer through the employee, and perhaps maturity. They develop personas to look at to be able to experience map them. They develop campaigns based on the experience, or UX based on the knowledge that you're finding from them and the data and analytics that you pull. Those drive optimized interactions, which drive metrics. And then there's the feedback loop for improvement. So this is the more traditional design through execution for CX that I would have expected. And again, if any of you are interested, I can go and do a deep dive of this and some of the tools that are used for this type of approach, which I think is more of a day-to-day approach for all of us practitioners, as compared to that total deep dive into UX. Because I suspect that some of you hand off what you do to a UX team. Is that not true? Yeah? No?
It probably is true based on the survey results that we've seen in that field. But when you think about from the customer's perspective, understanding that process, I think is really important for a CX professional. I'm guessing that's probably why they.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, it's just they kind of missed the other part of how do I execute on CX.
I'm with you.
Yeah. Which I'm not knocking them. It's just I think that there's a lot to cover in what we do, and you know, and again, there's the real life of what you'd like to do, and then what you must do to be able to be successful in the organization. That makes sense? Questions? Comments? Okay. You guys are a quiet group today. I am now going to get out of this. Okay, everybody get your mobile phone out again. And we are now going to go through the questions.
Oh boy, we get to do Kahoot again. I love it.
You do. Mark impressed me
it.
so much, I went and got Kahoot.
Good for you. Good for you.
Another reason it took me an extra week and Alicia had to fill in for me. Okay, hopefully I'll be able to get this going properly, and I can start. So tell me when all of you have the game pin, and I'll actually open up my chat as well, just in case. Okay. Great. Got 4. Got 11 of you. 5. 6. Okay, you can still do the ABC thing as well. Whoops, go away.
I'm just downloading the app. Give me 10 more seconds. It's coming.
Sorry, I have to figure out how to minimize this. Okay, great. Now I've done that. Yeah, if you're on a phone, if you just Google Kahoot IT, it'll come right up. Okay. We're getting there. Did I go too fast through that whole section? I was afraid I wasn't going to get through. Mark sent me a note. He says, you know, you only have an hour.
It was a lot, and you had to go quickly through some of it. But I thought it was excellent, and I can hardly wait to reread it, because that's I think one of the best I've seen explain design thinking, and the way you explain journey maps. I thought was really good.
Yeah.
Well, it's pretty funny because again, I was learning a lot of that as I was going along, but I have an argument with a lot of people because I like doing dense slides so that when you take it home and read it, you actually knew what someone said. So there's a lot of good stuff in there. I noticed a few typos as I went through as well, but I will fix them before I load this up again. Okay, ready, let's start. So this is the knowledge experience design test. In the past, services were usually designed by which of the following methods? A, customer input, B, employee suggestions, C, trial and error, and D, I can't read it, profit expectations. Okay, everybody vote. Okay, excellent. We got 5. Well, that's interesting. So trial and error is the answer. 3 people got it right. Most people talked about profit expectations. That's kind of interesting. So remember our first slide, trial and error is the way that most people actually did work. Right? Profit expectations would be following that. Okay, who did well? Heather is in the lead with Alicia close behind and Tammy coming up next. If you ever want to watch something really funny, go Google Mabel and Olive. There's a sportscaster that's quite funny. Which of the following is viewed as the new yardstick by which people and orgs are judged for performance excellence? Experience intelligence, emotional intelligence, customer intelligence, or behavior intelligence?
Mm.
The answer, emotional intelligence. Very good. Experience intelligence, that's interesting. We got quite a few there. The answer is emotional intelligence. But yeah, you could probably, well, is there a thing, experience intelligence, is it a thing? Have you guys had that?
No, but maybe we should make it a thing.
I know.
Yeah, we
Let's
could
define
market it.
A new practice.
We can brand it.
Okay. Heather, you're going strong. 1695. Alicia, Lenny, and Alan, you're coming up. And Matt, Daddy, you're coming into the play as well. Question number 3. Which of the following experiences is essential in public services like healthcare, transportation, energy, and welfare? User experience, customer experience, provider experience, or human experience? Tammy, Tracy, I threw this in for you. Okay, the answer is human experience. Interesting, we got a spread here of everything, user experience, customer experience. So in public services, right, with healthcare, transportation, welfare, user experience is more product focused. Customer experience, you could say that that might be an answer here, but human experience is what they're looking for because this is more of social science and social experience as compared to the others.
Stupid.
Comments?
Sorry.
It's hard. There's a whole just line of thinking again, you know, with design thinking and design ideation. Human experience has yet this whole other line of thought, and it's fascinating if you're a sociology major like me, but you can really get kind of trapped in it and spend a lot of time without as much reward as you would with the user and customer experience. Okay, Heather, you haven't missed one yet. I'm gonna have to give you a handicap.
I actually did
Alicia.
miss that one. I got that one wrong. So
Ah, okay.
I think it factors the time in too. I got one of them really quickly. That's why.
Yeah, I should have spent more time at 20 seconds is not enough for this. Okay, next question. All of the following statements are true except design culture is nurturing. A design culture encourages failure because failure is considered learning. Designing and refining is an invitation to be open to fail and fail early. And designing and refining presents the process of visiting and revisiting ideas. Okay, the correct answer is designing and refining is an invitation to be open to fail and fail early. So we got 50% saying design culture is nurturing, which is true, and 50% saying designing and refining prevents the process of visiting and revisiting an idea. And the real one is being open to fail. That's a big Steve Jobs, I guess, initiative or idea. So none of that one, no one got that one right, huh?
So why is that one not like it
Right.
says all of them except, right?
Except,
Yeah.
I thought that was true.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Well, this was an actual question. I'm going to go back to that. That is a really good question. So all the following statements are true except.
Because I would think that green one, it's all
Yeah,
about visiting and
right.
revisiting, not
Yeah.
preventing it. You want to go back and revisit.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I guess you're not supposed to be fail and fail. It's not an invitation to be open.
Ah, okay.
Oh, maybe that's
Invitation.
what it is. Okay.
Yeah. Because the others are all true, huh?
Yeah.
I hate those. Okay, we didn't do much on that one. Okay, 5. Which of the following requires the application of design thinking? Innovation, experience, competition, or employee retainment? Innovation, look at that. Okay, most people picked innovation. I picked experience in this one when I did it. So I think that in this
I did
case,
it wrong though.
pardon?
I was thinking about the true.
Oh, you cut out. You're thinking about what?
Yes, I was thinking about the previous question about true or not
Oh,
true.
yeah.
Yeah, me too. I was thinking what was not true.
Okay. Ready for the next one then? Okay. Heather, you're screaming ahead again. Which design tool is a useful way to bring a typical customer to life and communicate the value of the target group? Role playing, drawing the experience, character profiles, quick and dirty prototyping. Okay, character profiles. Good. Most of the people got that. Yeah, so personas role playing I think would also augment that, as would drawing the experience, but I think character profiles by definition is the most important one. Comments? No? Okay. Let's see how we're doing. Okay. Alicia is catching up. Which design tool is a valuable way to reveal design opportunities and show how a product might affect user behavior? Drawing the experience, shadowing, character profiles, or body storming? Okay, got a big spread here, roughly even across all of them. Shadowing is the correct answer. Questions, comments? Again, this is where going back to the exact definition, because to me, so many of these techniques are subtly different, right? I'm not sure one or the other couldn't work, but for the purposes of the test, they're going to be very specific. Frustrating, isn't it? I got more wrong on this section than anybody. Okay. Tracy, you're on fire, huh? Good.
It looks like.
Which of the following is a reason to use draw the experience as a design tool? Quickly generating and testing out many context and behavior concepts. It's a useful way to reach users' motivations, concerns, and perceptions, bringing customers to life, and a way to debunk assumptions to reveal how people conceive of experiences. Look at that, you all voted really quickly, and most of you got it right.
I ran out of time.
I know, I'm sorry, I made the
Mine ran
20
out as well.
seconds too short. Okay, yeah, these are long sentences, I'm sorry. Hey, you, my golden retriever puppy is saying, feed me now. Okay, Heather, you're still going strong. Next, I'll read faster. Which of the following is the first step in persona building? Locate your customers, describe your customers, connect with current customers, or understand customers' decision-making process. Okay, very good. Most of you got this right. Describing your customers. You do have to locate them and connect with them, but describing them is the first step for persona building. Okay. Okay, Tammy and Lonnie are moving up. Companies building effective journeys master 4 key capabilities, including automation and all except proactive personalization, cost reduction, contextual interaction, and journey innovation. Okay, cost reduction is the correct answer. Most people got, it's interesting. So why did you pick proactive personalization? Anyone?
Because on the cost reduction part, I know you shouldn't build a journey map or design anything with a goal of cost reduction because it may interfere with the experience. But I do think properly designed processes will result in cost reduction.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that depends on the business you're in.
It
but
could,
I
yeah.
went for proactive because to me, the others it was the one that I just could roll out when I didn't really know the answer.
Yeah, okay, that's good. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. When we do mapping, oftentimes one of the things we look at is if it's a moment of truth to the company, but not to the customer, maybe you don't have to spend as much money on it as you think you do. So it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it and I'm seeing like, we have to master 4 key capabilities, mastering 4 key capabilities, and cost reduction has never come up as a key capability.
True.
Yeah. Yeah.
That I've seen in building journeys. That's the only way that I kind of got to that one.
Yep, that's a good deduction.
Good way to look at it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Again, you're going to have more time on these. I went pretty quickly, but we are marching through them. 11 of 13. Casting a wide net for possible opportunities is an example of which step of a project journey? Synthesizing, generating ideas, refining, or implementing? Okay. Generating, that's interesting. So this again is interesting. Refining is the answer, and no one picked that. Generating ideas, yep. Casting a wide net, definitely. But their term in the CXPA exam is refining.
Well, that's just wrong.
I know.
Let's change that. We all got it right.
Exactly. Okay. Well, this again, I'm gonna. I think Adriana, I'm gonna send this all to them so that when they start writing questions, they can see what we've done. Question 12 of 13. Which of the following is most important regarding the design of measurements? Right? Documentation, research, ideation, prototypes, and analysis. Ideation, research, analysis, and documentation of prototypes, ideation, documentation, ideation, and research, and then research, analysis, ideation, prototypes, and documentation. They actually have a question like this. And you all got it. Look at that. Excellent. Well, not all of you, but most of you got it. Okay. Heather, you've been in the lead from the start to finish.
It pays to be fast whether you're right or wrong, apparently.
Yeah, that's true. Which of the following sequences correctly shows the 4 levels of experience prototyping? This is another one of those. Discussion, simulation, participation, pilot, discussion, participation, simulation, pilot, participation, discussion, simulation, pilot, and then discussion, simulation, pilot, participation. Okay. Fast and accurate. Excellent. And again, when you do this in the test, you'll have more time to look at it. It's really the order, but this is the logical order as well. So I think all of you will get it as you go through. So on the podium, Tracy is number 3, Alicia number 2, and let me guess, Heather, you win.
Thanks, ma'am.
Okay, I'm going to stop recording for a moment.